Well, hello everybody. As promised, here's my gear video for the 2017 season for my what I'm going to call right now is a flip-flop. That's what it looks like as I start out back at Luray, where I left off the trail after 930 miles, and we'll start heading north again. A lot of this is what I ended up with last time, and a little bit of it's new. But for the most part, it's pretty much the same gear with a lot less than what I started out with in the winter. For the big three, the biggest item is sorry Osprey, I ditched your pack. I did like your suspension on it, even though it squeaked a lot. But I wanted to go with something a little bit lighter, saving about a pound or so on this with a catalyst. Would have liked to have gone with the circuit for something a little bit smaller, but with the winter gear and the bulkage, I decided to go ahead and go with the catalyst instead. Of course, the other big three is here in this this event bag is my quilt. It's a 30-degree Nemo, and that worked out real well for me. And then the big Agnes that I ended up picking up at Neil's Gap there at Mountain Crossings. I replaced the aluminum stakes with these groundhogs. I like them a little bit better for what they do for me. And anyway, I kept my my Neo Air sleeping pad, and the my puffy jacket is in that blue bag there. That is a Mont Bell. Let's see. Well, I'm on this side. I might as well go ahead and do the clothes. A lot of people do those last, but I've got a smart wool bottom, a Patagonia kind of a mid layer, and a couple of the darn tough socks for sleeping in. And this time I'm only taking, I've got an extra pair of ex officios liner socks, darn tough, a pair of shorts and a light shirt. I'm not taking the, I had kind of a full, if you will, change of clothes just in case I quote unquote fell in water, and you know that didn't happen, and it's probably not going to happen, so I'll save that weight. And then I've got a buff, the pair of light gloves that I sent home that I regretted doing. I wish I kept them for a little while longer. An extra bandana, my smart wool hat, which I liked a lot, and then my Mountain Hardwear raincoat, which also acts as a winter shell, because I have as many as I have a smart wool shirt, and I'll go over this in a separate video. I've got a smart wool shirt that I will wear, another light Patagonia quarter zip that can go on. If it's then super cold, like I had a couple times in the Smokies, I could go back into the Mont Bell and then put this on as an outer layer. It gives me 4 layers. That usually worked for until it started to get above freezing, and I could start peeling things off. At the base of Tyvek's ground sheet. Some people don't worry about this. They just don't worry. They try and avoid putting your tent in mud. Well, you know what? Sometimes you don't have a choice on where you're going to put your tent. Plus, I like to put that in shelters because sometimes they're dirty and splintery, and that seem to help keep my Neo Air from getting punctured. I only used that AT to town hiker sign one time, and that was at Newfound Gap, trying to get to Gatlinburg. I don't know if I'll take it or not. I don't think it was pretty much needed. The AWOL guide, that's an unbound version, and it's only the northern part of the trail. Little oral hygiene kit, my first aid DIY kit, and that'll I've got a breakdown of that I'll do separately for you. Electronics, dual port charger, a bag, headphones, the solar charger that seemed to work well. It's like a 13,000 or 12,500 milliamps, so it does well. It gives me about 3 good charges on my iPhone. What I'm using to record right now is the Sony Action Cam. That's there. In that bag, comb, some stamps, some extra discs for the Action Cam. Those 3 items here, these little scan discs, if you look, there's a little port. Those actually plug into the iPhone and allow me to download the videos off my iPhone, which is my primary method of taking pictures and movies on the trail, and that frees up memory in my phone. A little cheap MP4 player, a couple extra batteries for my my Petzl headlamp there. My food bag, it's just a Sea to Summit bag. Another one, and that ends up being a kind of a collect-all bag. I might throw my electronic gear in there. It may end up being the house for my other items that have scents on them, like the first aid kit and the my toothbrush and toothpaste and soap and things like that. The little sponge I had with my soap, it was kind of gross. I threw it away, so I need to add that back in. Got a little piece of rope here for a clothesline, and then I've got, of course, my beer bag, rock bag, and rope. I like the smart water bottles. That one on the left is pretty gross. Guess what? That went 930 miles. You definitely want to bring an extra lid or a cap that you can throw in your bag, because I lost one sitting down on a stump. Have no idea where it went. While I was sitting there drinking my water, it just disappeared and never did find it. So a little cup here. You need this. Basically, it's just the end of a water bottle. You need something to be able to scoop. Not all the streams are flowing, or not all the pipes have a good flow. And I've had more than once to pull out the water. I like the Sawyer squeeze. I'm going to replace this one. It lasted me half the trail. It's only $35 to get a new one. Since they suspect I maybe got some E. coli, it would probably be wise to replace it. I like the Evernew bags instead of the Sawyer bags. Let's see, cooking system. I'm going to try this. It's a little titanium stove. It's called like a BR3000T or a BZ3000T or something like that. It's a little cheap Chinese thing, only 27 grams. It's a titanium mixed alloy. Seems to work pretty well. I've done some burn tests with the the pocket rocket, and they seem to burn about the same. Let's see, the Swiss Cadet. I lost it at the Tire River Bridge, and I like that. That's about the biggest knife you need. A titanium spoon, and I've added a titanium fork. Now the first thing somebody's going to say is, why not just use a spork? Well, I hate sporks. I've tried sporks. I've used the titanium. I have a titanium spork. As a spoon, it's terrible. As a fork, it's even worse. Have you ever tried to eat ramen noodles with a spork or a spoon? It's almost impossible. So it's titanium. It's lightweight. I'm going to bring it with me. Now I got rid of my. Didn't get rid of it. I'm not going to take it. It's the my GSI boiler, which is a 1.1 liter. I really thought I'd do a little bit more experiment with like cooking things, but that didn't happen. So this will cook up, boil up 2 cups of water, and I'll use my hydration pouch here that I got. These are just a couple little bags I use for medications. I think I skipped by this. I've added a little titanium trowel this year in its own bag. You might, well, why not just put it in the bag with everything else? Well, if you found a good place to go to the bathroom, guess what? Other people have probably been there before on the trail, which means even though you think you're digging in just dirt, it may not be just dirt. So I'm going to keep it from contaminating everything else in my bag. I like a little wet wipes and some Body Glide hand sanitizer, and of course toilet paper, and the Z seat. The Z seat, sometimes I would sit on it. A lot of times when I was hiking, I wouldn't. I'd just have a piece of plastic I'd sit on to keep my butt from getting wet. But in camp, I like it. In shelters, used it a lot to be able to. Sometimes you've got a dirt floor, and it's nice to put that down there with my boots so that I could get my boots on. I'd get my socks all dirty or muddy. I use it at the entrance to my tent to get in, to kneel on. Trying to get clothes changed, especially if you're on a rocky spot. So I definitely bring it back. And then I went ahead and got a ULA rain cover for my backpack. But honestly, my experience is that all they do is just filter the water as it goes into the pack, which is why I have a pack liner in mine, just a compactor trash bag. But what it does do is it helps keep your pack clean, because sometimes you set your pack down and it falls over, and if you get that on it, sometimes it gets the mud on it instead of your pack. So it does help keep your pack cleaner. My Aros pillow, my favorite piece of gear. I'll give up a lot of other stuff before I give up my pillow. It allows me to sleep on my side much more easily. My little REI pack towel. Twice I used it to actually dry myself off after a shower where there wasn't any towels provided. But for the most part, it's big enough to wipe up the condensation and things like that in the tent. And then a little Cedar Summit bug net that goes over your hat and your head. Used that right before I got off the trail. I started using it a lot getting into camp because the gnats are just so bad you couldn't even eat. All right, so if you haven't seen this, this is the iPhone 6 that I used to take pictures of, and it's actually driving the video from my action cam. So anyway, that's it. You got any questions, let me know. And anyway, good hiking. I'll show you the clothes in a separate video of what I'll wear, and maybe some of the things that I'm thinking about not taking or taking as I've kind of set some things aside. So anyway, and I'll let you know what this weighs for a base weight, because this is pretty much the base weight for me. All right, bye. Okay, so here we go. This will be my winter base weight. Okay, so what am I wearing on the trail? I started out with a ball cap, but eventually when I got to Damascus, switched over to a wide brim. Even in the cold weather, I ended up getting some pretty good sunburns on my neck, and I've had some already some skin cancer, so I switched over to a broad brimmed hat. Smart wool shirt is my base layer, and a quarter zip Patagonia for a second layer if I need it. Then on top of that, for a third layer, would normally go my wind shell raincoat, and if it's super cold, I would put a puffy as my third layer, knowing that as soon as I started warming up, I'd have to get that puffy off so it didn't get wet. These are the same pants that got me all the way to Damascus. I only traded them out because I ended up losing enough weight that they wouldn't stay up on me anymore. They're a convertible pant. They're made by Cool, Kuhl. They got a little bit of spandex stretch in them. They've got this gusseted crotch. They work great, and they're still in good shape. I'm going to go ahead and use them. Some Chope hats. These helped a lot with my knees. I had a black pair last year. Need a little bit larger size than what I had, so I'll start off with these, and as I lose weight, I can go back to the pair that my wife sent me. And a pair of Lakey poles here that are about 18, 19 years old. They worked great. I ended up putting a new set of tips on them for when we went out and did that little Hampton to Harbor Mountain section hike. But you know what? They're not super light, but they're pretty light, and they work good. I know they don't have cork grips, but you know, I can't replace them if they're still working well for me. Some ex officio boxer shorts for hiking. Helps with the chafing on the inner legs. That is a 6-inch inseam. The 9-inch inseam tended to be a little bit too long for me, and anybody that I know that tried the 3-inch, they said it crept up and gave them wedgies, so I would go with the 6 or the 9. A pair of these glacier gloves. The fingers are cut out of them. Well, they came that way. They're great for getting the blisters down with the hiking poles. An extra bandana for sweat, and my liner socks from last time, and my Darn Tough socks. So my Darn Tough socks, this and the other pair have 1,000 miles on them, and honestly, they're almost like they're still brand new. My original REI silk liner socks gave out by the NOC. I picked these Fox River ones up, and they're still doing pretty good. I may get a new pair before I leave, but those are the ones that I used. These are a new pair of Loas. The Loas that I used Last year I put 1,000 miles on them. I was looking to maybe replace them after Harper's Ferry. Only I wanted to have a new pair before I got into the rocks. The boots themselves were holding up great. A little bit of tearing along here that you're able to use some shoe goo to fix. That's more from me catching my foot on stumps and things like that. The tread was getting pretty worn on them, and I think the sole had gotten compromised. One of them would let water in. And then that's the nick wax that I will put on them to treat them, and then at least once in their life do that again to help keep the leather soft so the eyelets don't pull out. In the winter time, when I like the GTX as long as I've got a good pair of pants over the top to keep the water out. I didn't seem to have any problems until I got to the point where it was into June, where it just sweat so much it would just run in and just fill up the boots with sweat, and they're really hard downpours of rain. But if I could hike in not in the downpours, they did pretty good not getting water in, and it made it nice to be able to slosh through the mud. So I may try some trail runners when these get about 1,000 miles on them. That'll put me in the last 300 miles of the trail doing stream crossings. I may treat myself to a pair of trail runners and see how they do for me. Plus my weight will be down by then. So, all right, so that is what I wear.